Hi everyone! Today I'll be doing a swatching video of my new Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolor set. This is called the Field Pocket Set. I think this is the most compact set that Winsor & Newton has. I'm actually trying out several field pocket sizes, or I guess you could say travel size watercolor sets. I'm probably about to go back to a pretty active lifestyle where, if I want to try to get in daily sketching or urban sketching or plein air, I'm going to have to do it on the go, and I'm going to have to pack it in my work bag with me. So I wanted to try out some travel palettes and their colors before I really go back to the office full time. So this one here has colors that I thought would go really well for urban sketching. So I'll show you why on the back. So as you can see, it has what's really nice is it has two yellows. It has a cool yellow and a warm yellow. Same thing with the reds. I know this looks a little purple, but this is actually alizarin crimson. So there's a cool red and a warm red. There's not a magenta, so that's why I did not choose this one for things like botanicals, where you really want those bright florals for like a fuchsia pink hibiscus or something like that. That's why I thought this would be better for like bricks on a building, fences, stonework, things like that. This one does have a purple in it. And it has two blues. It has the ultramarine, which is great to mix with any of these, but it also has the cerulean, which is really great for sky. And then it has two of my favorites, which is the burnt sienna, burnt umber, as well as the sap green. I also really favor a Payne's gray for urban sketching in particular, to be able to drop in shadows easily. I know I can mix some of my own as well with these, especially since I have an ultramarine. For example, ultramarine and sienna, or ultramarine and burnt umber. But the Chinese white, I will probably switch this out for another one of my Winsor & Newton Cotman favorites, and that is a yellow ochre. So I will swatch this today, but it will probably, when you see this palette in the future, it will probably not have this. I will swatch out the yellow ochre for you on this video so you can see it as well. And you can decide if you want to add it to your palette or not. For this white, I carry a tube of Holbein white gouache with me. I have a Holbein gouache, and I also have a Turner acrylic gouache. So that's what I use for white. I also, in my travel drawing bag, I carry a white gel pen. I think the one I currently have is the Uniball Signo gel pen. So that's what I prefer over using the Chinese white. So let me just show you how I keep my swatch book, and I'll have a better preview of this at the very end. I'll just show you some of the materials I use. So what I've created here is a grid of squares that will fit perfectly into these 2x2 pouches. It has all of the color names. For the field set and the travel set, I have created free downloads available on my Ko-fi page. I also have a master set that's available for a small fee for download on that page as well. Now, I am not doing my swatch on this paper. I don't have a printer that I can run watercolor paper through. So what I'm having to do is kind of a different method, and hopefully this is a method that works for most of you, since many of us do not have either an inkjet printer, a laser printer, or a printer that has that rear feed to be able to take very, very thick paper. A watercolor paper could jam your printer, so be careful. Ask me how I know. I tried in my laser. Thankfully, I did not break my laser printer, but I have figured out a different way to do this. So let me explain the step-by-step process. So how I figured the size, first of all, is I'm using these coin pouches. I'll make sure to link them below. They are my Amazon links, my Amazon affiliate links. So if you choose to purchase these, they may pay me a small commission. It is very, very small, but it does help support this channel. So if you choose to use them, thank you very much. So I bought these coin pouches off of Amazon. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 20 squares per sheet. So for example, for this travel set, the entire travel set will easily fit on the front side of this. Now, the other thing I'm doing, I'll post the product here so you can see what it looks like, is I bought transparency sheets. Now, I have a laser printer, so I bought these on Amazon. They are laser. I do also have an inkjet printer, and I'll also link the inkjet ones I have used. So you can use either one because we're not going to be putting water on these. I've just printed it out this way so you can see it. The transparency, what will happen obviously is it will make the grid for you and print the name, but it will be clear. Because what we're going to do is then we'll take this Canson watercolor paper, which I'll post this link, and let me explain why I'm using Canson. Most of my field sketchbooks and what I use on the go are not the high quality 100% cotton such as the Etcher sketchbook. I do have a couple of those, but I'm kind of saving them for after I've become a little better. I don't know. We'll see. I have a lot of cheaper watercolor books and mixed media books that I'm trying to fill up and use up first. And their quality is closer to this Canson watercolor paper. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and do my swatches on this. Plus, it is a lot cheaper, especially for something like swatches. But if you truly use like Fabriano 100% watercolor paper all the time, then I would recommend that you do your swatches on that. Or if you eventually switch over, like I plan to 100% cotton paper, then at that time go ahead and make your swatches out of 100% cotton paper. But for me, for my purposes, for sketching on the go right now with the types of notebooks I'm using, this one should be sufficient and be a pretty close match. So these are the three things. So again, I will post all the links below. There are some extra research points that I've done on this that's not provided on the box. So the first thing, of course, is the name, Winsor Newton. This is the Cotman, not their professional series. So this is their student grade version or academic version. I've included the name of the color, and I've also included the pigment information. This pigment information you can find right on the back of the box. So right here you can see they did provide you with the pigment information, but the extra bit of research that I've done is I've gone onto their website and I've downloaded all the other information that as you get more advanced, things that you might be interested in knowing before you pick and choose certain colors. For example, ultramarine will be the best example because this is the only one in this whole series that has G for granulating. It's the only one that is a granulating pigment in this set. So if you're into granulation, then you'll really like that color and want to mix it with others. If you don't want granulation, then you'll want to probably mix with, say, a cerulean blue or something else that is non-granulating. Now, also in their rating scale, they have two different values for light fastness. They have like the student grade, which is not really for professional artwork, but it still gives you a good idea of how long a piece will last, especially if it's exposed to light. So for example, with ultramarine, it's A. They do have a few that are AA. This is a transparent watercolor. So T means transparent, O means not transparent. So it's opaque or it's transparent. And I'll have a key posted as well. The key I actually just download and keep a master sheet directly from Winsor & Newton, and I'll have that linked for you as well. Let me show that to you. So what I will also include in my swatch book is the actual master sheet from Winsor & Newton. So this shows you all the colors in the Cotman watercolor series, and it also shows you all of their ratings. So these are the ones on my chart. I put the number 1 and I put the number 2 for this rating here. And as far as permanent colors, I put that, staining, granulating, or opaque, for example. Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to draw out my 2x2 grid onto this paper here, and then I will cut out these squares from the transparency. My swatch will go inside the pocket, and then the transparency square will go over the swatch. And that way, this I don't have to worry about. If you only have an inkjet printer, it's okay, because that's not getting wet. It's literally going to be overlaying or be on top of your watercolor swatch that's inside of the pouch already. That also makes it easy for you to change out your swatches. Say you decide to change the way you draw out your swatches, or there's some other information you want to put on your swatch, you'll have the flexibility to be able to do that and to change it out at any time without losing all of your previous information that you had already recorded. All right, so let's get to swatching. So this is actually an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I was able to get 20 squares. This black line is Sharpie. I did that as it is permanent. It's also just something, an easy office supply laying around the office that I might end up using from time to time. And I could really see in these swatches what the opacity would be like with the watercolor over the black line. And then when I store it in my color swatch book, it will probably be stored in this direction, just so that it doesn't interfere with any of the words that are going to be with that acetate overlay, or that laminating sheet overlay won't interfere with it in any way. So this one's really neat. I'll show you how it comes undone. I've been into it a couple times already. Comes with a pamphlet inside of the box. And again, for the best, most up-to-date information on their products, I always go directly to their website, but they do provide some information in their little pamphlet here as well. So these are some other options if you wanted to save this instead for your opacity rating and everything else for on the go. You could save this. I'm thinking of trying to figure out a way to save that. I think that's a really great little swatch instead of just throwing it away. So with this, the lid pops open like that. This ends up being your water cup. And then once that's lifted off, it just opens very easily. So what some have noted is that these trays here, they do bend down slightly, especially this one on mine has more of a downward angle. So your water will pool more towards down this direction, which is how when I work with watercolors, that's fine. I do like a little bit of pooling, especially when I'm mixing colors. And if I'm using a color straight, well, I'm just going to be using it straight out of the pan anyway. And then this is the water bottle. This is a cute little brush that comes with it. And it is also labeled Winsor & Newton. So if it happens to get mixed up with your other supplies in your bag or what have you, you'll still be able to figure it out really easily. Fits in that little notch. This water bottle will pop out. And then you can use this to fill your little portable water here. I doubt I will use this as often because I usually have a water bottle with me, or like at the office, I have a sink. So I can just pour water directly into that and it's not an issue at all. I really don't have to carry water with me. So if that's too dark, I can either put a laminated piece of white paper in there, or I can just leave this in here and use it as a mixing palette right there. These little papers on the watercolor sets that I do have, I go ahead and save these and I glue them to the back side of my swatch. I just like to do that on my original, and so I'll be saving those as long as they don't get totally torn up. This little water cup clips on right here, and you can see it's very easy to hold. I have small hands compared to most people. I have very small hands, and this fits inside of my hand very, very easily, very comfortably. It also comes with this little sponge, and you can wipe your brush on it or whatever. Some people keep it in there, others take it out to add 2 more half pans here, and that's what I might do in the future as well. So I already know I'll be taking out this Chinese white and substituting that with yellow ochre. So with the wrapping, this is not super easy to get out of here. I just have a cheap brush. This is not an expensive water brush by any means. And I'm just starting with the middle aisle here, popping them out one by one. Okay, so note to self. Let me show you. This thing actually pops out. If you squeeze right here, this will help pop the centerpiece out. That's going to make it much easier to get access to all of these. Also makes it much easier to be able to add, say for example, another pan down here. So you can see how you can easily fit 2, 3, 4. You can easily fit 5 colors on each side, as once as you have that out of there. And then to seal them back in place, you just push this down. Nice on these Winsor & Newton pans is they are already labeled for you. On this label, the most important information that I want to keep is obviously the brand, the color, but also this little barcode at the end can be handy, especially with this number right here, because a lot of the watercolor companies will have a number that they have assigned to the pigment. Sometimes those pigment numbers change, but if you have the original color number, then that helps you out when the manufacturer changes the color name. So here's a good example. See, it says dioxazine violet here, but the label says dioxazine purple. But then you can see the reference code, the 231, and you can see the 231 referenced in here. So this is a good example of why keeping the wrappers with the pans will make it less confusing for you when manufacturers have multiple names on things. So I thought about when I show the unboxing, I wanted to make sure to show the condition of the cake pans, because every pan can be different depending on the type of mixture in the pigment. So for example, the lemon yellow, when you look at it close up, it looks to have like some bubbles in it. It looks a little cakier than the others, as well as the alizarin red, whereas like sap green is kind of like a striped texture. At least this particular pan is like a striped texture to it. Some of the blues are the same way, like the cerulean blue is like that, whereas others are super glossy looking. Like this one here is the burnt sienna. It has like a very high gloss finish look to it. So all of them, that is correct. That is how they should look. It just depends on what binders and things like that, and especially student grade, are going to vary a lot because of the additional items that get mixed into a student grade version versus the artist version. So now that I've unpackaged all of these, I'm going to put the original colors back into the pan. I am going to add 2 additional pans to the original colors. For now, they're going to be from the Daniel Smith line, since I am out of my Winsor & Newton Cotman series things right now. So eventually that Chinese white that came in here, I'll be substituting that one out with the Winsor & Newton Yellow Ochre. For now, I'm going to add some Daniel Smith half pans that I have extra of. One of them is this Aussie Red Gold by Daniel Smith. It was part of the Jean Haynes set. And then the other one is going to be a Nickel Azo Yellow. And so those will just slide in, and that will make this entire set here 14 pans instead of just 12. So this is how all 14 look in here. I've snapped the water cup onto it, and it's so easy to hold it. There is a ring on the bottom that I can put my finger through, a ring loop, and it's very easy to hold. Like I mentioned before, I have very small hands, but it fits just fine. also swatched out the Yellow Ochre is on the far left, a Prussian blue, and an indigo. Those are 3 other colors that I have by them as well. And so now I've overlaid the laser transparency and the watercolor swatch. And now I'm just going to glue these labels that came on those watercolor pans onto the back of those swatches. And you'll see that there are a total of 40 Cotman colors. So since these coin sheets have 20 pouches in each one of them, the entire line by Winsor & Newton Cotman series will actually fit just on 2 pages. So that's very nice and even. So I was happy to see how that happened to turn out. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave these extra pockets open, since it seems like a very easy, not too crazy expensive venture to possibly have all of these colors swatched in the future. So we'll see. The nice thing about seeing the swatch cards this way as well is the reason why the Winsor & Newton Cotman series is such a famous, worldwide known series, not only because they've been around so long, but if you look at a lot of their pigments, even though this is a student grade, so many of their pigments are single pigment. So that means you can easily mix these colors without them being muddy. They are just a great basic watercolor that makes it very easy to, make a whole variety of other colors because of so many of these being single pigment. So they're known to be more on the paler side. So for example, I really like a lot of the old traditional Japanese watercolor artists from like the 1920s. And if you look at their artwork, it is a very, very light, very, very pale watercolor, not the bright vibrancy like you see in maybe Daniel Smith or M. Graham. So it really goes to show that depending on what you're going for with your watercolor, you may decide to change up which brand you end up using for that specific project. So I like this one for a lot of vintage Japanese art, or also for florals that I want to be very muted and paler in hue. So this is how they've turned out. These are all the swatches that I personally own of the Cotman series. So these photos show how much thinner or flatter this particular travel set is compared to the other one that I have. Also here you can see it's not as wide. This one literally fits in the palm of my hand, and I have very small hands, so it is a very, very convenient travel size. So once again, I have included all of those swatches with the swatch information on my Ko-fi page. Feel free to go there to download those swatches for free and print them out on your own printer. Doesn't matter if you have a laser or an inkjet, just make sure you get the right media for your printer. And these are the original 12 that came in it, if you're curious about those colors. If you enjoy watching swatching videos like this, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.